morning, Liz. How are you?
Hey, Carolyn, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm really well. Welcome to Liz and Carolyn's Navigating Shitstorms, because Liz wrote a book. Well, I wanted to jump in today and talk about the control factory. Because I'm really glad that you included this one because control is big. We want to
Control is
control
huge.
everything. And sometimes life gets so out of control that you're like, oh, I just have to give it up. So let's just dig in and talk a little bit about how did you come up with this, the control factory, and what does it mean? And yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so there are so many different facets to the control factory. Of all the places in Victim Town, it is where I spent the most time. It was maybe not my introduction, but certainly at a very young age, I started working at the control factory. And I started learning how to manage up, which was my mother, and she was extremely controlling with her heart in the right place. She so sorry, Carolyn. You got a little round circle on your glasses on the computer.
Oh, that's my light ring.
Yeah.
That's the light ring.
Oh, that was really cool for a second. It was right on both your eyes, on both your
Well,
glasses.
I have to either. I know this stinking light ring. It's one of these things where yeah. Are we going to stop recording this? Maybe.
No, we're not. This is life. This is a minor little technical shitstorm.
That's the problem with the light ring and glasses, right? Okay.
Yeah, I find
No,
the
you can
same
still
thing.
see it. You can still see it.
Oh, it depends where you move. There.
Okay, I'm
There.
just gonna look like this. So Elizabeth,
No, it's
tell
not
me.
there.
Well, of course
All
it's not
right.
there. I'm not looking at my camera. We are gonna have
Okay,
it.
this is going to be known as the episode with the light ring. You know how Friends has the one with the.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is the
yeah.
one with Carol. This is the
The
one
one
with
with the light.
The one with Carolyn's circle on
So
her left.
I'm gonna have to figure out how do you do it? Because I thought I had it high
Okay.
enough that it was like down on me, but it's not. It's
All
on
right.
my biggest pot right now. That's because it doesn't have a big stand.
All
Anyway.
right. We're just going to move forward.
Yes, yes. So the
Yes.
control
We're gonna
factory.
the control
And your
factory. It's
mom inadvertently was
oh,
controlling. Now, was she controlling before Linda disappeared?
you know, I have such few and sketchy childhood memories. I'm going to say it probably was part of her personality to some degree, because I think the places that we naturally gravitate to in Victim Town have some innate foundation in our makeup, you
Mhm.
know. Uh, but after her sister disappeared, her mission became that of keeping me safe and alive. And that required a lot more effort than most mothers in her mind.
Mhm.
Right. So, I mean, you can imagine the wonky rules I had as a kid, and not so much as a young kid, because when you're little, she was around. So she was there to control my environment and the people around me and everything else. It was where things started to get really spirally was when I became a teenager and I wanted to assert my independence.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she ramped up the rules and I ramped up the rebellion. I mean,
Um,
there was one time, actually I was recalling this recently and I forget who I was talking to and why it came up, but we were talking about being grounded as a kid. And when I was not an easy child. I mean, she was so controlling and I just became so rebellious. And in hindsight, I look back and think, oh, I was a nightmare child. Truly, I was.
really?
Yeah. But so grade 9, 14, 15 years old. And there was a point where, and I don't remember what it was that added it all up, but I was grounded on grounded on grounded. And it had accumulated to where I was grounded for 9 months. 9 months. And in
Wow.
my 14-year-old brain, I was like, well, my life is fucking over. I mean, I have nothing to lose now. 9 months is my, my foreseeable future, the end of my friendships and and everything that I could see. So I started climbing out my bedroom window and and just going about my Friday night business. And it was only after a really close call where I just about broke my frickin' neck that I decided that probably wasn't the smartest move. So I didn't decide to stay in and continue my grounding. No, 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 no. I decided that I was just going to brazenly walk out the front door.
Oh.
And I remember walking down the stairs, and my parents were in the living room, and I would give them the wave like the queen. I would walk down the stairs and I would say, my ride's almost here. I'll be out for the evening. I should be back around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. And they would say, you're grounded. Well, that doesn't really matter to me. Just watch me. Here I go. And
Wow.
and then I would say over my shoulder just before I slipped out the door, and the address to the party where I will be is on a piece of paper on my desk in my bedroom.
Oh, so you're a responsible rebellion.
Well,
You're responsible rebellion. That was
I
responsible.
wouldn't I wouldn't say responsible, more just understanding my mother's terror over not knowing where I was because of what she lived through with her sister. So at least I could put her out of that little aspect of misery.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted them to have the address because I was probably going to need a ride home at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they were, without exception, willing to come and get me wherever I was, whenever it was. And I totally took advantage of that.
You little turd. But
Yeah.
you had a really unusual, like, I think of the rebellion and I think of like when we talked a few episodes ago about you cutting out the newspapers to protect your grandmother. And like that was super mature, right? And when you were expected to grow up a little bit faster than normal because of the situation, then at 14, 15, 16, screw you for being for being grounded. You're like, I kept people sane, and then now you're going to
Right.
ground me. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
And I
okay,
also had an uber sense of my own security
yeah,
and
yeah,
safety. I was very, very aware of people, situations, environments, and I also didn't put myself into any unnecessary risky situation, you know,
yeah,
where other girls were a little more naive or oblivious, or, as young people are, because everybody when you're young thinks, oh, it'll never happen to me, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that was probably the biggest difference, is that I knew that those tragic things did happen to people you knew.
yeah.
So I took greater care with my own personal safety, and believe me, I had all the training to be able to do that.
So one of the ways that your mom tried to keep you safe was to control, and were those rules that were bestowed upon you the same for your brother? Because he's a
No,
male and
yeah,
you're
no,
female.
absolutely not. And the unfairness of that was one of my primary arguments. He was 3.5 years younger, so I really didn't get to have that argument until he sort of reached the same age,
Mhm.
for privileges. But he was a boy, and boys just weren't at risk. And so no, he didn't have any of those same rules.
Interesting. I think, it's
Yeah.
interesting because now that we're in, past 2000, and when we talk about, I mean, this was about kidnapping and murder, but boys were at risk. We just didn't realize it, I think, for getting sexually assaulted,
Oh,
because we never talked
absolutely.
about it, and that was all in that not in the home necessarily, but often with somebody that we know, blah blah blah. So it's interesting because now, all these years later, men are starting to come out. Well, not starting, they have started to come out to talk about sexual abuse that they had encountered. And so lo and behold, our boys weren't necessarily any more safe than our girls were all those years ago. um
No.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's very true.
yeah, so your mom had what taught you how to be controlling too, right? She would have modeled it and you would have picked it up, and hence we have the control factory.
Yes. So that's, where it relates to people. And I also learned at a very young age that if I could control my environment, then I would also be safer, You start to make up weird little stories in your head, like if I wear these certain clothes, then I won't get noticed.
Yeah, yeah.
And right, if I can just stay really small, then I won't be the one that somebody targets,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Don't stand out. So controlling your environment is a big thing. And then there's coping mechanisms about just feeling safe. If your immediate environment is the way you want it, it provides a sense of comfort. And that's where all the OCD behaviors originate.
Mm-hmm, hmm. A little bit of a false illusion, so to some extent. So how did this? We talked about some people, your mom or whatever, but how did this translate to your dating life and then into your marriage? You talked a little bit in your marriage, like um, control. Yeah, I have something that we could talk about, but I'm sure you'll just bring it up. So because you wrote about it in your
Yeah.
book, that's how I
Well,
know about it.
I
But
I I I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So I guess you'll let me
I'll
know when
let
the
you
time
know.
is
We'll see if you
right.
hit on it or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, there's so much about my childhood that got dragged into my adult coping mechanisms and life that it's hard for me to pinpoint, just one particular place in Victim Town where it originated. Um, some of the biggest challenges from my childhood that came into my marriage was my sense of unworthiness, that my needs were not important. And so that translated into people pleasing and trying to keep my husband happy and do whatever he wanted. I didn't have I didn't have a voice at that time, and I had no boundaries. I didn't even know what boundaries were.
Mhm.
My only experience was to keep everyone happy and don't rock the boat. And just, coast along,
Mhm.
right? Make other people happy. And of course that never ends well, right? That never ends well.
But
Eh,
you have a bit of a defiant spirit about you too. I mean, you just told the story about like kind of F
yep.
you to your mom. So with your husband, would you be pushed so far and then there was a hard no and then maybe you flew off the handle and then it would have looked like he would have
Yes.
looked like probably made it look like you were crazy kind of thing, right? Like how can you
That's
do that
exact.
with everything was fine and then you just flew off the handle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the cycle. That was definitely the cycle. And he's a narcissist and abusive. So that cycle also was at play.
Yeah.
And yes, and I would reach that point. And eventually I reached that point and I left him.
Mm, yeah. In
So
your
I do
book,
have that defiant,
you
yes,
do
but
well, you're
it's
just like now I'm now yeah. But then now I'm thinking about it. If when you left him, this was well before you went to the place. And so even
mm.
in leaving him, was there a sense of not quite understanding how to process it, not quite dealing with it, maybe putting it under the rug and going, okay, that, and now I'm moving on, but we just didn't deal with that pile of shit. We
Exactly.
just swept the shit under the rug. Is that
Yep.
what happened?
Yep. I just shoved that down and forged ahead without doing the healing or the work. And I wasn't attracting relationships that were much better. I mean, they got marginally better, but it wasn't, they couldn't get healthy until I was healthy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then hence, funnily, like some relationships, like your long-term friend that ended with a friendship that ended with a text, some of them fall away, and then you
Yep.
attract different people into your life, sort of.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you.
Like me, yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
like
And
as
that,
we're yeah, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say that losing people and relationships is not easy. And because we get attached. We get attached, and then it's hard to process the end of those things, but it's not necessarily it's never a bad, or shouldn't be a sad thing. Those people I see now played a significant role in my development, in my healing journey. And
Mhm.
they were prompting me, pushing me, pointing me, showing me signs in the direction of figure your shit out, do the work, deal with what happened in your childhood, excavate the feelings, and heal. It just took me a little longer
Yeah, yeah,
to see the signs, but we all do that when we're ready. And so
yeah.
I have today immense gratitude for the role that they played. My husband, my ex-husband, and also that longstanding friend. Not to
Mm.
say that I have any desire to have a relationship of any kind with them, but I also hold no blame or animosity or hate, or I don't wish them for for bad things to happen. I wish them well, and I thank them for doing what they did that prompted me to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. That's so beautiful. Well, I love it when you can get to that place where you don't have a lot of emotion attached to when you're telling the story is a beautiful thing too, right? Because it can show that you're slippery and not as attached to what it was.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes it takes time, I've noticed, to re-see things in a new light. And then that when you have sort of like those epiphanies, it's often through you learn a lot. We learn a lot through, of course, we're, going to counseling or coaching or reading or listening to podcasts or whatever else. But it's those little we're like connecting the dots, and all of a sudden we'll have an experience where all of those little posts were hit, and then it's like all of a sudden it like, oh, makes sense, and then you can re-know that past in a new way, much like I used to wear size 5T outfits, and now I no longer do. It just was, but it didn't mean that it wasn't okay at that time. It was what I needed at the time, and now I can bid it
yeah,
farewell. I mean, that was a
yeah.
long time ago, but
Exactly. Exactly. And I do believe that those people, they paid a personal price for that too.
Mm,
The situation wasn't just hurtful and difficult for me. They also had ramifications
mhm.
for their ongoing role, and also after it ended, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. So one of the stories you tell, we don't have to go into it in detail because I mean, obviously we want your readers to enjoy the stories too, was when you got a boob job and your husband kind of really led you into it. And one of the questions I had was when I was reading that story was, now you say you didn't have boundaries or whatever, but why did you really want the implants? Or like what was it that you felt, I really could not say no to this? I could not say no.
Yeah, in my mind, it was a question, it was an act to save my marriage. So he had an affair when I had a 2.5-year-old, and I was 5 months pregnant when I found out.
Yeah.
And so him wanting me to get breast implants came after that. And in my mind, it was, if I don't do this, he's going to continue having affairs or perhaps leave me altogether.
So did you feel like he didn't value your body? Like that if only you had a different body, then that would
Yeah,
be the thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. He, in my mind, didn't leave me any choice.
Yeah.
But that was about me
Hmm. Hmm.
and my lack of boundaries and voice. And mostly what it boiled down to was that I didn't love myself,
Yeah.
right?
I was just thinking that. I was like, that's really what it boils down to
Yeah.
for all of us,
Yes.
for almost
Yeah.
everything. Ultimately,
Yes.
we don't understand who we really are.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. We don't value it. And admittedly, even as a mom, my kids are older now, 18 to 26, but and I still catch myself, or I catch my husband saying things that are not conducive to a healthy environment. Why did you do that? You're such a why'd you do that stupid thing? Why'd you do that dumb thing? Like even the language that we use. But as a mom to younger children, I of course wish that I had some better techniques and tools and that kind of thing. I didn't. I did the best I could. It wasn't like
Yeah.
my kids I homeschooled my kids, so I wanted to be home and I wanted to be around my kids and I wanted to give them an environment, but there was also bad behaviors that I had taken on that I didn't know how to do anything better. So you just parent the best way that you
Well,
think
of
you know
course.
how, right? And then you do when you know better,
Yeah.
you do better. So
That's the journey of life,
yeah,
right? I mean, the shit that happened in our childhood, 99, none of it, 100% of it was not our fault.
yeah,
But we still have a responsibility to become aware and to heal that so that we don't pass it on to our kids and our neighbors and our coworkers and everything else. I mean, every single person who says mean things or doesn't handle situations well, they're in extreme pain themselves, right?
yeah,
It doesn't have anything to do with the person on the receiving end. It's all about them.
yeah,
And so that's our responsibility.
yeah.
And you nailed it when you said all we can do is better than we did yesterday,
Mhm.
right? We don't get do-overs here, not this go round. Um, and so we also can't beat ourselves up for how we handled things in the past before we learned what we now know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there were lots of times I acted just like my mom in parenting my boys. And I mean, shit, that doesn't feel good to remember, but I mean, it's the truth.
yeah. So what is your process now when you have a situation where oh crap, this is Liz wanting to control? What's the process for undoing that for you? What does it look like?
First of all, it's an awareness. It's an awareness thing in the moment. And when it comes to my kids or my close friends, my hero, Brene Brown, who I love,
Mhm.
love, love. I mentioned her in the book. I hope she's read the book.
Hashtag Brene Brown.
Brene
Hashtag
Brown.
you're going to be our best friend like Jim Carrey.
Yes. Um, One thing that she said that I have really embraced and has made a tremendous difference is her question to whomever when they come to with an issue that they're experiencing. Do you want comfort or solutions?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a solutions girl. Easy peasy for me, right? And I can try to fix, I can try to help and whatnot, but oftentimes that's not what someone needs. And if you jump to that, then they're like, I don't need you to fix my problem. I just wanted to tell somebody, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they just want comfort and to listen, that's okay. That's actually, it's becoming easier for me, but that was harder for me than the coming up with solutions. The response is to let them know I'm listening with, that sounds hard and I mean that, but now it's a little easier because I don't have to get creative and come up with ideas and then help implement or, because when the solution part is what they want or the role you choose to take, that's not where it ends. It's not just being creative about the solutions. It's how to implement them and what to do when that doesn't work and how do I do it, and providing what they need to do it. I mean, that control thing is a slippery slope, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that question helps a lot. And if they do want solutions, I'll have them maybe brainstorm or talk about them first, and then I might help them tweak it.
Yeah.
It's taking a giant step back. And the other thing that's really helped me for that is the understanding that the more we let other people, particularly our kids, solve their own problems, the more power and confidence we give them, the more heart voice power they generate, because that's something that has to be done from within, right? And that not fixing things, that not controlling, not jumping in is actually a gift to them. It's really hard as parents, especially. It's hard to watch our kids struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, every maternal instinct in us wants to just scoop them up and hug them and make it all better and give them whatever they need,
Yeah.
and it doesn't serve them in the long run.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Totally. On a very like minor level, my backyard neighbor's got 4 children, and I have 4 children. And so, and she's and my kitchen, poor lady, my kitchen overlooks her backyard because my kitchen's in the 2nd level. So I can see the kids playing. I can see them doing all the things and everything else. And she is the mom that I wish I could have been back then. Like if I could do it again, I would be her. And it's been such a delight watching her because she allows her children. I was more of, be careful of that, that's going to hurt you. Be careful of that, that's going to hurt you. And I have seen her kids accomplish things that I don't think I would have let my kids do at times, like even like climbing the fence to hang over the fence to talk to me, and they will throw the ball or whatever. I don't think I would have let my kids climb the fence, even just because you're going to ruin the fence. Like that's you don't want to ruin the fence.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a delight to watch the less control, I had more control over my kids, to watch her and her children and watch the kids just flourish and blossom in a completely different way, yeah, it's like
Well,
she's
that's the
2.0.
generational gift. If we heal our childhood shit as soon as we're ready and able, then our children can learn from that and start working on theirs. Because as much as my parents contributed and the universe and life to the shit I was exposed to and had to navigate as a child, I did the same thing to my kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I fucked them up for sure.
Yeah.
And there's no getting away from that. And if somebody thinks they absolutely didn't, then I think they're on a hike on the denial trails, because we all did to varying degrees, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The current parents, I always hope that we're just doing a little bit better generation by generation. And that's that expansion and wanting and asking and doing, like, it's just natural to who we are as a peoples, right? Like parenting's better in the 70s, I would think, than the 30s, and in the 2000s versus the 90s, and now we're 2023 and we're doing better. There's more tools available, more, people are
we
waking
learn.
up, there's just lots more.
Yeah. Yes. Well said. And we learn as we go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. I remember my oldest one said to me, like, why is your dad such a jerk or something like that? And like, my dad's in his 70s. And I'm like, well, his parents were born in the 19 teens. So what do you want? They went through the First World War, they went through the Second World War, they went through all these, the Depression, this and that and everything else. Like, that's who he was raised by. And my dad had parents that were divorced, which is like unheard of, like to some extent back then. I mean, there's a lot of people in their 70s that are divorced, but that was really uncommon. And so grace must be given to, okay, who raised my parents and who raised their who raised that? My grandparents, you know, and when you start going back the generations, you're like, wow, we have done better. And so,
Mm,
you know, yeah. Anyway.
yeah. Yeah. And what happened in their childhoods, you
Well,
know?
exactly. And what aren't we privy to? Because so much even of our grandparents and our parents, like they don't talk about stuff like that.
Yeah,
Secrets,
we don't
secrets
know.
are
Nobody
kept.
knows.
Nobody was talking about menopause and breast implants and all the shit that we talk about, right? Nobody talks about stuff like that back then. Now it's much more accessible and easy to talk about. So we're moving ahead.
We're
We're
moving
moving ahead.
ahead,
Yeah.
forging, learning as we go, and that's
Yeah.
that's all we can do is
Yeah.
a little bit better than yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for talking about the control factory. I'm going to ask you a few questions before we head out. Hopefully, they're not too hard for you today. If you could time travel, what era would you visit?
Oh, hmm, I'm torn between future and past. Um,
Oh.
I think future. I don't know. Women in society in the past, I think I would have had a really uh tough time. Knowing what I know now,
Mhm.
I don't think I could go back. So I'm going to say future.
Oh, I love that. I don't think
Yeah,
like anybody ever answers that future time travel. Like of
future.
course,
Yeah, I'm
time
so
traveling.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite way to unwind and relax?
I love to have a hot bubble bath
Oh,
with
that would be mine too.
candles and music. That would be my number one.
What about the boat? Do you ever take the boat out to relax, or do you find that you're actually a little bit more alert because you're paying attention?
The boat?
Do you not have a boat? I just assumed you had a boat.
Oh, I do not have a boat anymore. So I did bring a boat with me when I moved from Muskoka out
Right,
west. I
right.
towed a boat, and it was my contribution to my son's arborist business. He
Oh.
wanted to service a niche market of the serving the homes that are on islands in Howe Sound. And
Oh.
it's not a big boat. It's like a 17 and a half foot ski boat. So not what I would consider ocean worthy,
Right.
but has served his purpose for the last couple of years to help him break into that market.
Oh, wow, good for him.
Yeah, yeah. I also didn't have room to store it or keep it here. I'm not on the water. So it didn't fit into my lifestyle anymore. And it was something that was going to make a big difference
So
for
when you
him.
lived on the
So,
lake, though, was boating
yes.
a way to unwind or not the same? That's not the same kind of unwinding as a bath.
Yeah, not the same. If I was going to unwind outdoors, it would be me floating on my back in the lake. So like
Yeah.
just me being in water.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What food would you choose if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life? But it had all the nutritional value. Like, let's just say it's got all the nutritional value.
Pizza.
Mm, I know, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's got everything, and you like so many things on it. So that's perfect. And if you could have, I mean, we've got sort of a little bit done this, but if you could have a celebrity as a best friend, any celebrity as a best friend, and that would include
Brene.
Brene Brown.
Brene
I was just gonna say Brene.
Brown.
What is it about Brene that you love or enjoy
Uh,
or just appreciate?
well, she's brilliant. And her groundbreaking work about vulnerability and emotions and the unpacking of that just made such a huge difference, not only in my life, but in millions. So she's brilliant. She's real. She's
Yeah.
real. And she shares that. And that's very inspiring for me.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. She
All right.
helped me a lot learn to love myself.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I often use the term the vulnerability hangover. Like, oh fuck, I just said too much again. Now I got a vulnerability hangover. And then I work through it. I'm like, yeah, well, I had one
Yeah.
with you. I had one with you the other week, and I'm like, I don't know if we got off a call like one of these or it was something else. And I'm like, oh, I said way too much. And then I'm like, no, Liz wrote a book about it, so I'm not even going to. I was almost gonna text you and be like, it's just a little one. It's just a little vulnerability hangover. But I'm like, no, I'm not even gonna justify that. Why am I gonna give it any any
right?
power or fuel, and it might not even be on your mind. And then why would I even want to put it on your mind? You probably don't even care. You might have cared a little bit, but I'm
It's
hoping you
not that
didn't.
I don't care, but it just, I think when we feel that way, we can learn. There are situations we can learn by how it unfolds
Mhm,
afterwards, because
mhm.
there certainly are situations where I have shared too much too soon, uh, and I've regretted it, you know. So you
Mhm,
can
mhm.
learn from that. But there's also a lot of times where, you know, it's just the story and the shit we're making up in our own head, and the other person, it has, you know, they're not thinking anything differently about us. It hasn't affected, you know, if
Yeah.
anything, oftentimes it's strengthened the relationship.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah,
Does Brene
yeah.
talk about too? Maybe that she talks about that's the power of the vulnerability hangover, is that like it could be the very thing that you fear is the thing that actually helps other people.
Well, you never know what someone else needs to hear at the
No.
time,
Yeah.
right? And the other thing that she shared that really struck a chord in me is that the opposite of belonging is fitting in,
Oh.
right? And we say and do things to try and fit in that are not our true self. So when we share our true authentic selves, and the consequence of that is sometimes the vulnerability hangover that you're describing,
Yeah.
um, you know, we risk rejection, and that's scary. But it's also empowering, because if people reject us for who we really are, then they're not really our people, and we can't find our true people until we share who we really are,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's so true. That's so true. I think
So
that some people will argue, "Oh, well, I've been who I really am and nobody will accept me," kind of thing. But I would contend that perhaps one hasn't learned to love themselves 100% and be okay. And
yes,
that's
and
for me, that's something because that's something I've been very other focused in the past. And so being okay with myself and going, oh, even if that person doesn't understand what I'm saying or doesn't accept it or whatever else, I'm still okay with that thing. And even if I get rejected because of that, I'm still okay with it. Whereas in the past, like the lack of soft sense of who you are, oh, I'll just do whatever you, oh, okay, I'll just change my mind and I'll just do
right.
whatever you want
That's
or agree with
yeah.
you.
That's
Just
the fitting in, and that's the
mhm.
not expressing who you truly are, what you really
Yeah, and when you
believe,
belong, it feels so good. It's
right?
like fitting in's like efforting and belonging's allowing. Efforting versus allowing, and one feels
Yeah.
so much better. One's upstream, one's downstream. Yeah,
Yeah. One's founded in love and the other's founded in fear,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's so good. All right.
Big difference.
Well, thank you so much for meeting today. I really appreciated it. Navigating Shitstorms. You can find it on Amazon. I'm assuming in the American Amazon as well as the Canadian Amazon. We're
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
so
That's where it was first in
yeah,
the
yeah.
US of A. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.